Hey guys, we're going to get down to business today. So we got a few comments and questions. We've been going back and forth. We've been a little bit of everywhere as far as on these lives, on these videos here, on Instagram. We have a lot of activity on the day-to-day on our posts on across social media. And people are wanting to know, how are we doing right now? What's moving, what's not? Has our focus changed on the direction we want to go in? Are there any things on the standards on the way we do business day to day? Has that changed at all? We're going to dig into some of that in this video here. Let's get it. Hey guys, what's going on? Will here, Flawless Crested Geckos, coming to you guys with another video this week, and we are rocking and rolling. And this week we're going to talk a little bit about the operations on what we're doing, our game plan and strategy, and hopefully put enough information out there to at least steer you in the right direction. Maybe you want to stay clear of something that maybe we bump our heads on, or maybe you want to, plow through that obstacle as you see it there. But regardless, we want to put out pertinent and relevant information that can possibly help you in this industry. So how is the hobby doing at its current moment? Personally, I think the hobby is doing very, very well. I think long-term vision overall, no matter where we're at currently, where we were, I think that everyone was literally overwhelmed with COVID and COVID pricing and the availability of certain genes and morphs when they were discovered. It was just like a perfect storm for a lot of people. And they thought that that time was going to linger around for a lengthy period of time. And since it has gone, they think that, oh, it's over with, and there's no recovery from it. But if you write up a sustainable business model, it actually is really, really sustainable to be in this industry. There's definitely a lot of toxicity you want to try your best to avoid. We put out a BBS series over on Instagram, kind of trying to empower people. It's more than just reptiles, it's more day-to-day life. And empowering in the sense of not trying to say, okay, you're always right, but more so kind of spitting the facts to you guys, cutting it clear and dry with you, cold, hard facts. And a lot of the times we have to self-reflect and know where we are just to figure out where we're heading. That being said, going through all of this now, 9 years in, we are still full-fledged, locked and loaded into Crested Geckos. We are not deviating our path as far as it goes, because it's gotten us to where we are now, and we still are shooting and aspiring to go even further. And we want you guys to be along for the ride as well. You see us consistently partnering with several different other breeders. We love sharing content. We love putting people out there. Come over to Patreon, guys. You see these commercials, they roll out pretty much every episode that we drop. And we mean what we say. It's a family-oriented group of people where you can kind of come there and put out whatever you're going through, whatever you're dealing with, especially in the Crested Gecko field. There's a lot of people that will pat you on the back and tell you, hey, let's get it, let's attack it together. And there's a lot of people that will respectfully kick you in the behind and say, no, put your hat on right, get your mind right, let's get it, let's make the proper corrections so we can progress forward. So we love the environment there. And in order to move these projects, you have to have your own vision. If you don't have a vision and you're going for someone else's, it won't be sustainable. Long run, you're going to kind of fizzle out. And that's more so what this video is about. So through our Black Friday events year to year, through all our new release, we have another release coming up. Date will be announced soon. We're also going to be at Bob's show, Southeast Reptile Expo. So we're doing a lot of different things that we're trying to get on that big platform. And we want to go out west. We want to reach different regions, different customer base, and that's all a part of our plan. When it comes to projects and, answering that question, what are people buying? And as crazy as it sounds, I don't know if you guys been watching our site, watching our release, more high-end projects are what's selling here. And not just Exantics. Exantic, for the most part, I believe, hopefully I'm not over speaking for anyone else's projects, but Exantics are a hot commodity. It's still, prices have dropped, but prices are going to drop on everything. It's literally supply and demand. For every animal that you sell in a project, you're selling it to, a potential, well, it's a customer, but it's a potential breeder, whether at a hobbyist level or at a breeder level. And if they see it full circle, then what's going to happen is they're going to breed that animal at some point as well. They're going to have offspring. They're going to have holdbacks, hopefully, because they're breeding it for a reason. And they're also going to have animals available for sale. In return, when you go to, it's kind of a whole sales class, but when you go to make something available for sale, it is very, man, this is a whole video, but it's very hard to answer very specific questions. We'll get messages where someone sends you a picture of a gecko and says, hey, how much is this worth? It doesn't really work like that. Maybe we'll talk about it on a live, because it's kind of hard to really be so specific on one gecko. Number one, these are living and breathing creatures. This is a life that we are in control of. So we need to make sure we take care of them to our fullest potential and to their fullest potential. But that being said, if you're going to have it as a business, even a side business, you're going to place some type of a value on it. Now, your value is going to coincide with your reach. Yes, that good old word, reach. If you have the capability of, let's say, ABC Geckos, we only know 5 other people. We have a very small family. Nobody's sharing our content, looking at our productions, but we know maybe 5 other people that we have reached to, whether that's word of mouth, whether that's social media, whether that's the internet. And a perfect example is if I'm sitting in this room right here without this camera and I produce 100 geckos, okay, and I know I'm keeping 5 to 10 of those geckos. That means I have 90 to 95 geckos that are available. How many of those geckos can I now sell if nobody knows me outside of this room? As of right now, the camera's on the other side of this, but there's nobody in this room. I'm not talking social media. I'm talking about there's no one in this room. I can't sell a single one of those 90 to 95 geckos at all. Nobody know I even exist. And that's the hardest part, the hardest lesson, I think, getting into this, that I think people need to identify and learn. So you guys needing some assistance with your crested gecko breeding programs, well, check out our Patreon. We've been running it here now for pretty much close to 2 years. Everyone's been extremely excited. We keep adding new perks every time you guys turn around. We give away Exantics, we give away high whites, we give away lily whites. We actually upgraded this year to, we're giving away over 12 geckos every single year. That averages out to at least a gecko a month, and we've been doing over that. So you are not going to want to miss becoming a part of the Flawless Crested Geckos Patreon family. There's 2 tiers. There's a $50 tier and there's a $100 tier. You get all your funds back in the form of Flawless Crested Gecko savings account. You can take advantage of having 5% additional off by being a Patreon member, as well as having year-round free shipping. You guys are not going to want to miss this, so go head over to patreon.com/Flawless Crested Gecko and learn. So that's lesson number 1. Increasing your reach is the number 1, the most important thing about this business. I think people work on it, too late, if at all. I think you need to be working on increasing your reach before you have anything to sell at all. Just kind of showing off what you're working with, what you have in your collection is a very important point to kind of push out there, because you never know who's admiring what you have in your collection. Don't take that for granted. Now, now on the other side of the coin, what projects you want to work with? Our high-end projects that I was talking about earlier, yes, Xanthic sell, but if you move that to the side, what else is selling? Sables. Sables are selling like crazy. We're one of the last breeders to really get into sables. There's plenty of breeders that's rocking and rolling with that. Morph Menagerie, AJ from AJD Reptiles, Harry over at Zero's Geckos. Love watching him. Every time he has a live, or even when he puts content out on YouTube here, we watch everyone. All of those guys are literally friends of ours. They're all in the Crested Gecko, industry hobby. On the outside looking in, I think everyone is doing relatively well at high levels, but that high level is relative to what you want to do. So you need to also stop comparing yourself wherever you are, to us, to them, to whoever. Just compare yourself to you. So that was another kind of tip to throw out there. People get happy temporarily for different milestones they may reach, but then when they reflect that to what someone else may be doing, and then they kind of get a little disappointed at that stage, and that shouldn't be. You need to keep pushing forward. Your milestones and accomplishments are yours. Appreciate them. But yes, back to those projects, you have a lot of other breeders that's running with, sables. We have sables. We're not breeding them yet. We have several that are just getting to breeding weight now, and we have very key kind of pairings we're going to try to offer up and run with because of our vision for it. Now, saying that we're one of the last ones to get into the project, what does that mean? That mean, are you in that project to produce more sables? That's fine. What are you doing to produce them? Are you trying to improve structure? Are you trying to get a certain color wave interaction? Are you trying to mix them into your extreme harlequins? Are you going to try to get nicer pinstripes? Are you going to try to seek more sable tigers? Like, what is your angle? And I think the planning stages is where we all mess up, because we think, and it's regardless of the project, we think we're going to go out there, buy into a project or a gene, and the goal is to just reproduce that gene. So the way the market and everything trends, it's supply and demand. So if I get X gene, incomplete, dominant, recessive, it doesn't matter. If I get X gene and it's limited availability and it's a $10,000 gene, male, female, whatever it may be, raise that animal, and then I start breeding that animal strictly to produce more X genes. Nothing wrong with that, because it's rare. So you need to hold back, diversify that gene, put different things in, but you're going to need to hold back the majority of that, if not everything, since it's not readily available, which is going to mean you're going to be working on that for the next 3, 4, 5 years before selling anything. But if you just work that gene, reproduce it, and sell everything that you're going to produce from it, then you have to be okay with the fact that you're going to pay 10 grand for this gene, and then now the next year, maybe you weren't the only person to buy it. When you turn around and sell it, that gene is 3,000, and okay, you're disappointed in the price, but you make a killing because you're one of the limited sellers that have it. Maybe 4 or 5 other sellers have it. Everyone makes a killing. Okay, awesome. But now in year 4 and 5, you're pissed off because that $10,000 gene, you're now having to move whatever you have available for $500, $600, $700, and you're disappointed. That's the way it works, okay? Because everyone you sell that gene to, they want to reproduce it. So I say all that to say this: when you work a project, work the project, and you can still reap the rewards of bringing in revenue, but you have to work on your time frame and see how does that apply. Same scenario, X gene, very rare. You produce it, you breed that gene to sables, you breed it to Xanthics, you making head Xanthics, X gene, you breed it to empty back, whatever your projects are. And out of the breedings, let's say half of it you're ending up holding back because you have a well diverse collection. You hold back everything, which in return now you have to grow those animals out too. So you're breeding that animal maybe 2-3 years to produce exactly what you're looking for. You're improving structure, you're improving color, you're improving pattern, you're getting it involved with other incomplete dominant genes, you're getting it involved with recessive genes, you're holding everything, you're not putting it out there. So at the point of now, 3-4 years later, you're hitting goal animals for yourself that still holdbacks. Guess what now? When they're selling X gene, single X gene for $700-$600 that you paid $10,000 for, you still have such a plethora of combinations that you have a major draw. People are going to reach out to you because you went a different direction than the majority. I'm not saying that X gene is going to hold that value. The price at the beginning is simple: supply and demand. That price at the start, where people typically get a jump start on things, is when you look at things and they're like, man, $10,000, there's no way anybody's going to buy that, man. That's a stupid price, whatever it may be. There's people that's going to buy it. There's people that's going to lose money on it. There's people that's going to spend that money and get 100 times that back 10 years down the road. So it all depends on how you write up that business plan. So when you look at the strategy on how we approach different things, how we got to the point of where we are now, even though we're striving to go further, is all through planning. So plan everything you have out as you move forward. And the last thing I want to talk about before I wrap everything up is settling. In what happened, I want to say, through all the corrections and people, selling entire collections, which is fine. You could do whatever you want to do. But what happened on the buyer side of things, we found that buyers were buying very specific purchases. They look for very specific animals, males or females. That was a draw for us big time. People coming and buying a male or buying a female that they needed because they knew that we sold bigger animals. That was a plus for us. But we found that people weren't settling. So we tended to sell a lot more mid-range to higher end animals. People were coming in, picking up exactly what they wanted. So that was a huge perk. So I guess the advice for that would be, if you're in that group, even now, and you see something or gene or expression of a morph that you want, try to get the best example that you possibly can, especially if prices are down. Get the best example that you possibly can so you're not settling for something. And it's already going to move you forward. If you have that expression of that gene with the awesome structure and you get that one versus just having a gene and not having the structure, now you got to work for a few years to get that gene expressed with good structure. You could have kind of skipped all of that with buying the exact one that you wanted. Again, all of these are suggestions. All of these comments, we had a lot of comments when we did our live. We did also a Palm Street live last night. That was really, really cool. We did it over on the snake side of things, and we auctioned off 10 snakes, and it was pretty cool. Or I think it might have been 11. I believe 4 moved and 6 or 7 are still here. But again, we're not really kind of competing for space. We have plenty of space, thankfully, because that was in the planning. But we want to make this as interactive as possible. And hopefully this kind of reinvigorates your drive or passion. I'm telling you, Crested Geckos can go a long way. Just keep your focus on your projects, on your goals, and you'll see this thing through. But anyway, it's Will, Flawless Crested Geckos, and we out.